How I Met Your Mother is a show about a man looking for his soulmate. But while Ted Mosby finds the woman of his dreams in the very first episode, Robin Scherbatsky doesn't share his fantasy of life-changing romance.
What is this doing in my champagne?
Despite attracting the admirations of a long line of men,
After you.
Oh, thank you.
Robin has other things on her mind besides finding the perfect guy.
Guys are like the subway. You miss one, another one comes along in 5 minutes.
Refreshingly, this character, who was the center of the show's major love triangle, fit the archetype of the quintessential career woman who puts ambition before love, doesn't want kids, and is okay with being single.
I don't want kids. I've never wanted kids, and never in a million years will I ever want kids.
Robin made choices like these appear not only valid, but even aspirational, representing a powerful moment for a character type that rarely gets positive treatments in pop culture. Yet in the show's home stretch, How I Met Your Mother arguably let Robin down by turning her into a stock love interest, there to deliver a happy ending for its protagonist.
It is meant to be, and you know why? 'Cause I mean it to be.
And not following through on the person she really was.
It's a great look, but you're looking at the wrong girl.
Here's our take on Robin, and why her role as a professionally focused woman on an influential, love-centered sitcom mattered.
Welcome to Robin 101.
The premise of How I Met Your Mother is that Ted is the male version of the stereotypical rom-com heroine, looking for someone to sweep him off his feet.
Nothing hotter than a guy planning out his own imaginary wedding, huh?
He's so in touch with his feelings that he throws himself at Robin on their very first date.
I think I'm in love with you.
What? What?
What?
Ted has a plan that's more traditionally assumed to be the fixation of women. He wants to fall in love, get married, have kids, and live out the Norman Rockwell American dream. But Robin doesn't want that dream.
I don't know where I'm gonna be in 5 years. And I don't want to know. I want my life to be an adventure.
The inverse of Ted, Robin is driven by priorities our culture normally associates with men: ambition, intensity, selfishness, and living for the moment without her future set in stone.
I don't plan out every second of my life like you do.
I don't plan out
Oh,
every...
really? Oh, what is all of this?
When she meets Ted, what she really wants isn't a boyfriend, but a group of fun friends to take the edge off.
I only moved here in April, and I'm always working, and I just haven't met a lot of good people so far.
She's passionate about becoming successful in TV news.
Because I care, Dawn. I care about the show. I care about my career.
And almost always chooses her work over the possibility of romance,
They want me to anchor the news tonight.
starting with the night of her very first date with Ted.
We got a jumper. Some crazy guy on the Manhattan Bridge. Come on, you're covering it.
All right, I'll be right there.
Robin's whole personality is also stereotypically male, from her taste in liquor
I love a scotch that's old enough to order its own scotch.
and pop culture,
Can quote obscure lines from Ghostbusters?
Ray, when someone asks you if you're a god, you say yes.
to her comfort with guns.
You have to clean your gun.
The conceit of a man who acts like a woman pining for a woman who acts like a man was central to the romantic tension driving How I Met Your Mother.
You know, Ted, not everyone is as much of a woman as you.
Co-creator Craig Thomas said, quote, "We wanted to show a guy who was in love with this girl and she just doesn't want that."
Look, it would not be smart if we got together. I mean, I'm looking to settle down. She's looking for all...
By flipping the stereotypical gender attitudes toward romance in Ted and Robin, the show got the opportunity to explore both male sensitivity and vulnerability, and female independence and self-determination. As the woman who acts like a man,
I'll have a Johnny Walker Blue neat and a Monte Cristo #2.
Robin is a prime example of the cool girl trope the Take made a previous video about.
Chick who's like super hot, but then like loves Xbox, down for pizza.
Just like one of the guys, but much prettier, she's a male fantasy.
Hey, you want to go upstairs and watch SportsCenter?
She's basically a collection of male tastes and behaviors in a hot female body.
Surprisingly good.
Right? I told you so.
And men obsess over her, at least in part because she expresses not wanting the commitment that the more stereotypical woman demands.
I mean, the most I can handle right now is something casual.
Looking closer, though, Robin's tomboyish behavior has more complicated roots stemming from her childhood. Robin's father wanted her to be a boy.
He wanted a son, and the fact that I was a girl didn't change his plan.
What do you mean?
My full legal name is Robin Charles Scherbatsky Jr.
So she is the way she is because her father raised her to embrace stereotypically male activities like shooting, smoking, drinking, and hockey, until he could no longer keep denying the fact that she was a girl.
Teammates don't kiss! Oh my God. I have no son.
Though the show usually plays Robin's boyishness for laughs or as an attractive quirk, her acting like a boy while growing up was her way of trying to please and be accepted by the first man in her life. And as an adult, she's still haunted by her father's rejection.
Robin's deep-seated need for attention can be traced back to her father's emotional distance.
So this suggests that on some level, Robin's cool girl persona, down to her beliefs that she isn't like other girls and doesn't want a relationship, is rooted in the desire to be desirable to men.
My father was a cigar fanatic. It was the only way to get his attention.
Father issues. Hot.
Robin actively avoids the appearance of being like other women.
What is it with you and women? Ugh, they're so annoying. I'm glad that you're my only female friend. Girls are always whining and crying over every little thing.
And is deeply upset when her jealousy for Ted makes her not recognize herself.
Look at me. I'm acting crazy and jealous and paranoid. This is how people act in relationships. And that's why I avoid relationships.
And whenever Robin has feelings that aren't convenient, like for Ted or Barney, she represses them, always playing the cool girl instead of expressing her real emotions.
I have to go to Germany and surprise her.
Totally what I was thinking. Get out of my head, man!
Moreover, being a commitment phobe also doesn't automatically mean she doesn't want a commitment, but rather that she's scared of it.
She thought about how opening yourself up to another person usually means opening yourself up to going a little crazy. She thought about how much easier it was just to be alone.
How I Met Your Mother suggests that Robin's really trying to avoid the possibility of getting hurt.
The second you get close to a guy, you want to bail.
And these fears are justified when, in her relationship with Don, she uncharacteristically turns down a career opportunity in order to put romance first, only to be burned when Don chooses that very job over her.
You can imagine what it's like to have the phone ring and it's your dream job on the other end?
Yes, I can. Good luck in Chicago, Don.
Robin's character development eventually shows her becoming a person who does want real love. But actually, the man who helps her discover this most naturally and in spite of herself is not the uber-romantic Ted who's long been obsessed with her, but the equally commitment-phobic Barney, the member of the gang most like Robin, who she eventually marries.
We both think the marriage commitment thing's a drag. We both want something casual and fun, and we clearly get along really well.
Even though they get divorced in the finale, for most of its run, How I Met Your Mother makes a compelling argument that Barney is a much better match for Robin than Ted. Not only do both of them share a love of cigars, booze, and laser tag.
You just saved my life, didn't you?
Thank you later. Let's keep moving. These little bastards are everywhere.
But both of them are also adamant about their lack of a desire to ever have children.
Okay, yes, kids are not my favorite thing in the world, but I like them.
Well, you don't want to have them.
I like sports cars, but it doesn't mean I want to push a Ferrari through my vagina.
Robin's lack of interest in kids, her desire to put other priorities first, was an important, positive alternative to most female role models on screen. Despite her not having this end goal, Robin and her happiness were still valued by this romantic comedy.
Mom, I'm not marrying some future possibility of starting a family. I'm marrying a girl who means more to me than kids.
Like her relationship hang-ups, Robin's feelings about motherhood are also complex. She's painted as having a phobia.
Scared of babies.
What?
And when the choice is taken away from her because she discovers she's unable to have biological children, her response isn't what she or we expected.
I guess it's just nice knowing that you could someday do it if you changed your mind.
Ultimately, there's honesty in the fact that she's conflicted about big life questions, that her behaviors are shaped by her environment, and that she has to confront doubts about the decisions she's made.
I'm always putting my career ahead of my relationships, and To be honest, there's a lot of lonely nights in that job description.
In the end, though, the show let down the complexity it had built up for Robin as it barreled toward its rom-com fairy tale ending. Often, the story of the single career woman is captured in the question, can women have it all?
You really do want it all.
I can do it! I can have it all!
The traditional example of the working woman on screen is trained to avoid emotional attachment.
Starting now, you are a hard, heartless career gal. Go to work, be awesome at it, and don't waste time on foolish flights of fancy.
Focusing on her professional success and putting relationships second, or not worrying about them at all.
There's no simple answer to why a person isn't married.
How many different reasons can there be?
65.
Modeled on the tenets of second-wave feminism from the 60s to the 80s, inspirational pop culture about the career woman like Mary Tyler Moore put forward a version of female life that prized workplace equality and access to the same opportunities as men. Women in this time period were encouraged to act just like men to have any chance of succeeding.
The conversation of a raise is not inappropriate at this moment, but do not be timid. You presented like a man, now act like one.
Later examples, from Working Girl in the late 80s to Sex and the City starting in the late 90s, reflected the conversations of their time periods as well by working the questions of femininity and romance back into the picture.
I have a head for business and a bod for sin.
In Sex and the City, 4 female characters have prioritized work well into their 30s and set out to be
women who have sex like men.
But as they remain unattached, these working women also question their decisions.
Single and fabulous question mark? There was no question mark implied. I would never have agreed to be in an article. Single and fabulous question mark.
And spend a great deal of time fixating on their interactions with men.
How does it happen that 4 such smart women have nothing to talk about but boyfriends?
Career women characters since then have continued to juggle finding fulfillment in their work.
You're married to your job.
Oh my God. With deciding how much of a traditional domestic life they want, while being presented with an ever-shifting set of role models.
I grew up wanting to be you. I grew up wanting to be Samantha Stevens on Bewitched.
And we can see the influence of the career woman's history shaping Robin as well.
But I don't actually cry in front of people, or cry at all for that matter.
She's incredibly driven with an enviable work ethic, even when she's toiling in obscurity on a little-watched show.
God, if I can't even get my best friends to watch, who's gonna watch?
She repeatedly watches her romances suffer due to work and finds that men are not as okay with her all-consuming ambition as they profess to be.
This is so not great!
I'm sorry that I have to work while I'm here. It's called being on assignment.
Her commitment to what she wanted in spite of all of that made Robin an important entry in the pantheon of career women characters throughout the years. She's the most professionally accomplished among her gang.
Robin got famous. In the next few days, she would meet the mayor, go on Letterman, and even have a deli sandwich named after her.
And that's not even counting the whole other career she has behind her.
I was a teenage pop star in Canada.
What happens to these women as they get older and it's time for the TV show to end? Generally speaking, they wind up settling down, no matter how much they've protested.
I love you. I love you, Steve.
As University College Dublin professor of film studies and screen culture Diane Negra put it, Sex and the City came to closure in a strikingly ideologically conservative fashion with the safe settlement of its 4 ensemble members into commitment and motherhood.
And in the end, Carrie Bradshaw married John James Preston in a labelless dress.
I do.
30 Rock finds a more practical, modern solution by marrying Liz Lemon to a man willing to do most of the domestic work around the house.
I hate work, and evidently you miss it.
I know. I'm a terrible mother.
Oh my God, if you were a dude, you would not even be thinking that.
Peggy Olson on Mad Men finds her romantic happiness inside the workplace, ending up with her co-worker. And so does BoJack Horseman's Princess Carolyn, who marries her former assistant, Judah.
While you're signing things, I have a stack of holiday cards for the staff. I took the liberty of writing little personal messages to everyone on your behalf.
Thank you.
Some of these working women also navigate motherhood, but in the most realistic feeling examples, this is not always something that comes as naturally to them.
I mean, work makes sense to me, and I'm good at it. I don't feel that way about my baby.
and their most defining relationships may still be at work.
I love you too, Jack.
Like so much of pop culture, How I Met Your Mother pays lip service to the idea that women can and should be fulfilled without needing a traditional partner and family.
Besides, there are other ways to have kids. There's adoption, surrogacy.
No, Kevin, it's not just that I can't have kids. I don't want kids.
Only to undercut that idea with its resolution. By the end of How I Met Your Mother, Robin has achieved the level of professional success she always wanted.
I am not everywhere. Okay, I'm some places.
But winds up traveling to such a degree that it damages her relationship with Barney, eventually leading them to divorce.
Is this just not working anymore?
This is the same problem Robin's had in all of her relationships. So this breakup seems to confirm the message that Robin's career is incompatible with a forever romance. While the divorce is a disappointing resolution for fans of the couple, having How I Met Your Mother leave Robin as a content single woman would have made a lot of sense. But that's not what happens. Robin no longer fits into the group now that she's not dating Ted or Barney.
The gang is my ex-husband hitting on slutty cops right in front of me, and it's the guy I probably should have ended up with the beautiful mother of his child.
In the show's final moments, Robin's rescued from her lonely existence and winds up with Ted, proving that no matter how much Robin insists she wants to be and is comfortable being alone.
Ted, you know how I feel about marriage.
This can't be considered a happy ending.
The point of the story is that
you totally have the hots for Aunt Robin.
Robin's resolution with Ted feels both inevitable and forced, which it was. The conclusion scene with Ted's future children was shot 8 years before the show actually ended, long before the story followed Robin's career taking off and developed her chemistry with Barney. The best parts of How I Met Your Mother give Robin a complexity outside of her relationships with both Ted and Barney. But as the show goes on, those parts of her identity become harder and harder to find. Even though Robin has never wanted children, and even though she's made her priorities clear,
This way there's no one to hold me back in life. No one to keep me from traveling where I want to travel. No one getting in the way of my career.
she still feels a little too sad and melancholy when that door is actually closed to her.
Of course, it's one thing not to want something, it's another to be told you can't have it.
When Barney is finally so happy to become a dad at the end of the show,
You are the love of my life.
the implicit message is that Robin wasn't able to give him what he really wanted. And she's ultimately pushed into Ted's existing family, even though there's no reason to believe her work ethic won't present exactly the same problems it did for her and Barney, which will only be compounded by adding Ted's kids into that picture. And so, How I Met Your Mother, like so many other TV shows that started out differently than they ended up, winds up arguing that the only way women can truly be fulfilled is through a romantic relationship. One that often serves her male counterpart story more than it makes sense with her own character development.
And when you love someone, you don't stop, ever. Even when people roll their eyes or call you crazy, even then, especially then.
A more fun, consistent, and interesting version of Robin could have stuck to her guns and found genuine professional happiness without needing Ted. Because if you're paying attention, this is who she's really been all along. An independent woman who's doing just fine without being rescued by a fairy tale. Did the mother kind of ruin How I Met Your Mother by being too wonderful?
Are you okay? No. But there's nothing you can do.
Do you want a cookie?
Yes.
For 9 seasons and over 200 episodes, How I Met Your Mother teased its title character. A woman so incredible that she would not only be Ted Mosby's soulmate, she would justify how long it took to tell the story of how they met. And somehow the show succeeded in rising to this challenge. Tracy, played by Kristen Milioti, is a perfect match for Ted, and kind of perfect just in general.
Who is this person?
The bass player from the wedding band.
Oh, yeah, she's great.
But as we learn in the finale, the show's framing is a red herring, because this series isn't actually about Tracy, the mother of Ted's kids, who we learn passed away 6 years before Ted sat down to tell his kids this long and winding story. It's about Ted's decades-long crush on Robin. Basically, his whole narration turns out to be a long justification of his desire to try again with her.
This is a story about how you're totally in love with Aunt Robin.
This pivot turns Tracy into a stepping stone love interest, just a plot device along the way to the main event. Usually, the character relegated to the stepping stone or runner-up love interest role is not deeply beloved by fans, but Tracy is almost an angel, incredibly charming, loving, and sweet right up to her tragic and untimely death. And How I Met Your Mother's final season inconveniently made Tracy a red herring character who gives birth to Ted's kids and then dies, a much better match for him than Robin ever was.
But I can't believe you let Ted hang his jousting lance from the Renaissance fair on your bedroom wall.
Yeah, that's Ted's.
So if the show wanted us to forget this gem of a person so quickly, they made her too lovable. Moreover, by relegating Tracy to the margins after all the reasons it telegraphed she was the soulmate love Ted had been resolutely holding out for, How I Met Your Mother undercut the romantic ideals at its core. Here's our take on why How I Met Your Mother betrayed itself and underestimated its audience by treating the mother as disposable.
You made us sit down and listen to the story about how you met Mom. Yet Mom is hardly in the story.
Though How I Met Your Mother included several other stories, like Barney's slow maturation, Marshall and Lily's evolving marriage, and Robin's commitment to her career, Ted's romantic life was always the center of the show and the narrative's driving force.
Nothing hotter than a guy planning out his own imaginary wedding, huh?
Ted is like the extreme Goldilocks of dating, and the show takes great pains to show why each of his major love interests isn't quite the match for him. His first serious partner during the show, Victoria, is more of the idea of a girlfriend than a real person, a solid partner who just isn't the one. Something that her German fiancé, Klaus, articulates about her too in the episode when he and Victoria both run out on their planned wedding to each other.
There is a word in German, lebenslanger Schicksalsschatz. And the closest translation would be lifelong treasure of destiny. She is not my lebenslanger Schicksalsschatz.
Stella doesn't want to move to New York and ultimately turns out to be already emotionally committed to her ex-boyfriend Tony.
And that, kids, was the perfect ending to a perfect love story. It just wasn't mine.
While Zoe's commitment to preserving old architecture clashes with Ted's professional dreams in a mirror of how Robin won't ignore her career aspirations for the domestic life Ted wants. With both women, the issue isn't simply incompatibility, it's that there are certain things he's unwilling to compromise on in his search for love.
New York is never finished, Theodore. Do not miss your turn.
The Arcadian has to go, doesn't it?
And as much as Ted thinks he's willing to go to any length, we see this in shorter love plots too. Ted's not only quite specific and picky about what he wants from a partner, but also pretty unwilling to sacrifice or change much about himself or his life. While Ted never fully accepts it over the course of the series, Robin, too, doesn't fit his criteria he's unwilling to compromise on for the love of his life. In the most major way of all, she doesn't want to have kids, or the kind of traditional family life that Ted does.
I don't know where I'm gonna be in 5 years. And I don't want to know. I want my life to be an adventure.
By contrast, Tracy really is the perfect fit for Ted. She's deeply like him in her personality, outlook, and life vision. All her tics and strange habits are things Ted finds adorable, as we learn when he briefly dates her roommate Cindy.
She does these bizarre paintings of robots playing sports.
That sounded awesome. Your mother's robot volleyball watercolor is hanging up in the den as we speak.
More centrally, Tracy is the right partner for Ted because she has a similarly quaint and idealistic view of romantic love.
I guess I'm old-fashioned. I believe that each of us only gets one.
Which is really Ted's defining trait. In the one episode that actually shows us Tracy's backstory, we learn that her journey has been a mirror image of Ted's. Tracy's boyfriend, Max, dies unexpectedly on her 21st birthday, and in a reversal of Ted's incessant dating and poor choices, Tracy refuses to open herself up to the possibility of another romance for several years.
I have been holding myself back from falling in love again. But you're not here anymore.
The technique of talking so much about the mother throughout the series worked to pique our interest in this character, who'd by the end become a near mythical figure. It's a technique we've seen in iconic stories like Apocalypse Now or Saving Private Ryan, where a character who's off-screen for the early action is used as a MacGuffin for the plot. But all the focus on the idea of this person can get us really hyped up to finally meet them.
Walt Kurtz was one of the most outstanding officers this country's ever produced. He was brilliant. He was outstanding in every way.
Often, this character ends up having only a brief role to play, or they might turn out to be fairly mundane. But even though How I Met Your Mother creates incredibly high expectations for the mother, against all odds, she meets them. After teasing the idea of her so long, the final season gradually lets us get to know her in small, tantalizing doses. Scenes of her meeting all the other characters concisely flesh out a special person who's quirky, funny, kind, and sweetly silly.
You just met me. I could be a serial killer.
I like to believe in people. Plus, what are the chances that we're both serial killers?
Most of what we do learn about and see of Tracy suggests that we really would have enjoyed getting to know her better, for longer. She knows about all the obscure, obnoxious trivia Ted does.
I still can't believe he dragged me to the childhood home of some stupid bucklesmith no one's ever even heard of.
Yeah, who cares about Florian Van Otterloop?
I never told you his name.
She seems to put up with Ted no matter how annoying he gets. She's even inadvertently responsible for Barney and Robin getting together for real after a lovelorn Barney tries to hit on her.
It's gonna be okay. You're a good guy. You will get through this.
Most importantly, Ted's and Tracy's connection is the conclusion that makes sense for his story and his romantic ideals. In the Season 8 premiere, when Klaus describes the idea of destined soulmates and why Victoria isn't that magic person for him or Ted.
She is my beinahe leidenschaftliche Gegenstand. The thing that is almost the thing that you want. But it's not quite.
Klaus's speech about how you feel that soulmate love coursing through your body is accompanied by significant visuals of Lily and Marshall's love for their baby and Robin getting emotional over pictures of her with Barney, who's then with Quinn but staring out the car window, perhaps thinking of Robin. When Klaus asks if Ted's felt this yet, the answer is evidently no.
Have you ever felt this way about someone?
Yeah, I think so.
If you have to think about it, you have not felt it.
Which we have to take to mean that neither Victoria nor Robin is really this for Ted. The sequence then gives way to a foreshadowing of Ted meeting the mother at this train station.
Unfortunately, the when of it was still a little ways down the road.
Clearly making the point that the mother is Ted's Liebenschläger Schicksalsschat. And in the scene where they at last meet, we see them feeling this immediate connection.
Funny how sometimes you just find things.
Significantly, in the conversation with Klaus, Ted raises the question of whether people can become or grow into soulmates.
Maybe as the years go by, she'll get Lebenslager Schicksalsschatzier.
But Klaus emphatically rejects this, declaring that the feeling is immediate and innate.
Lebenslanger Schicksalsschatz is not something that develops over time. It is something that happens instantaneously.
And this is very much in keeping with How I Met Your Mother's mystical, classically romantic view of love, whereas numerous characters on other sitcoms, like Friends' Monica and Chandler, support the argument for creating one's soulmate.
I don't think that you and I were destined to end up together. I think that we fell in love and we work hard at our relationship.
How I Met Your Mother, and especially Ted, are all about the supernatural magic of love and having the stamina to keep believing in romantic fate no matter how long it takes. The challenge in this worldview isn't putting in boring, tough relationship work like it might be for Monica and Chandler, but spiritually persevering, waiting for the real thing to finally show up, without letting your doubts get the better of you, and without settling for a lesser love that's not quite right.
And you're absolutely sure you'll find that someday?
Of course. Everyone does eventually. You just never know when or where.
Robin, in contrast to Ted's sparks flying right away meeting scene with Tracy, may inspire instant feelings in Ted, but she herself is put off when he comes on too strong in the pilot. She's the person who's around Ted for many years and whom you could argue grows into his soulmate by being there long enough, but this is not the philosophy of the show. The philosophy is that love shows up and fully overwhelms you, and that, after a very long wait, is the magic that Tracy represents. Oddly, after telling us all this repeatedly, though, How I Met Your Mother has other plans, because it had already made up its mind to make Ted's relationship with Robin the destination. When How I Met Your Mother suddenly reveals its last-minute endgame that Ted really winds up with Robin, just like that, the mother is transformed into an intermission or abstraction, even a distraction. Though Ted meeting Tracy does feel special, the series begins with the dramatic romantic meet-cute between Ted and Robin.
It was like something from an old movie.
And it evidently always planned to end with the couple as well. The showrunners secretly filmed the concluding scene with Ted's future children in 2006 during production on the show's second season in order to avoid the child actors aging too much before the series' conclusion. Though it may have made sense at the time, especially given how compelling Ted and Robin were as a couple in the show's second season, the series ended almost a decade later in 2014. The nature of television means that How I Met Your Mother had to draw out Ted and Robin's relationship for that entire period, and therefore make repeated convincing arguments that they weren't right for each other.
We have an expiration date, don't we?
Only to ignore all of that evidence at the end of the series. And by setting the ending in stone so early, the show denied itself the freedom to have its characters change in unexpected and exciting ways along the journey. Like, for example, falling in love and committing to a brand new person and not staying hung up on another lead character in a way that's not really satisfying or believable. The beginning of the series teases a bigger picture, which initially seems like it should be about Ted's future marriage.
I was just too close to the puzzle to see the picture that was forming.
But in reality, Ted commits to Robin in the pilot, and everything that follows was, despite many diversions, just about Robin and the obstacles to them finally being together. While initially the main thing separating them is Robin's prioritizing her career and not really desiring the family life Ted wants, over time, the biggest obstacle becomes Robin's relationship with Barney.
We both think the marriage commitment thing's a drag. We both want something casual and fun, and we clearly get along really well.
Wow, that actually did make a lot of sense.
Though Barney and Robin weren't pre-written into the script the same way Ted and Robin seemed to be, their chemistry emerged organically from near the beginning of the series, so as a result, it felt much more satisfying and real. And though their relationship doesn't work out the first time, How I Met Your Mother spends much of its final 2 seasons arguing for Barney and Robin, with Barney's elaborate classic Stinson proposal.
Prove your loyalty to Patrice by burning the playbook. And actually burn it. You don't need it anymore.
And moving through all of the obstacles they encounter, both external and internal, over a long, winding wedding weekend that's the focus of the show's entire last season.
I am always going to be honest with you. Because I love you.
Their partnership evolved naturally from their interactions and has entailed a lot of both characters working through their emotional issues in a realistic way. In fact, the last major beats of Ted and Robin's relationship involved Ted telling Robin to marry Barney. First, he tells her that Barney is planning to marry Robin's coworker Patrice, which is part of Barney's plan to confirm that it's okay for him to marry Robin.
It means your best bro in the world has let go of Robin and has given you his blessing.
Then, Ted talks Robin out of ditching the wedding, which ironically is used to prove that Ted is the one who actually deserves to end up with her, even though his argument against himself feels quite convincing.
I don't love you like that anymore. And you don't love me. You love Barney.
And after several seasons of work to demonstrate Barney's determination to change and grow, the series concludes by repudiating his arc and suddenly sending him right back to square one.
That woman is half your age. Haven't you changed even a little?
No, I haven't.
Instead, the thing that finally actually changes Barney is the birth of his daughter with a woman who goes entirely unnamed, buying into the absurd father of daughters trope that suggests that the only way for men to treat women as people is to be involved in creating one. Though the finale attempts to have it both ways by treating Barney and Robin's marriage as an adult failure.
This isn't a failed marriage. It's a very successful marriage that happened to only last 3 years.
This doesn't fit into the storybook terms of the rest of the show, which may sometimes claim not to believe in fairy tale endings, but still returns to them again and again and again. A big part of the problem here is structural. A mere 1 episode after Robin and Barney tie the knot, the show flashes forward to their divorce, thus skipping most of their actual marriage. And even worse, it flashes forwards at warp speed from Ted's and Tracy's happy ending to Tracy's death. The episode runtime between their wedding and the scene of Tracy in her hospital bed is a mere 17 seconds. Then it's not even 5 minutes of screen time later that he's declaring his love to Robin with the blue French horn. Maybe 6 years have passed for the characters when Ted's kids give them their weirdly enthusiastic blessing to go for it with Robin.
Mom's been gone for 6 years now. It's time.
But viewers barely got time to catch their breath, let alone adjust to these huge emotional shifts. And having these narrative-altering beats happen in such limited screen time implicitly gives Ted's and Tracy's romance less value and respect, belittling their importance to the story, which is what leads the viewers to feeling, on some level, that the mother was done wrong. How I Met Your Mother did such a good job of establishing Tracy as a character that even though she had only recently been introduced, fans and critics felt betrayed by how she was treated. Since the series ended, fans have gravitated towards the show's official alternate ending, which scraps the Ted and Robin story in favor of letting Tracy and Ted simply be married and happy. And there's something about that re-edit that does work better even purely from an artistic standpoint, as the speed and screen time issues in the actual finale make the final blue French horn scene feel almost artificially tacked on. Throughout the show's run, fans correctly theorized that the mother had actually been dead throughout Ted's entire story. The How I Met Your Mother creators described Tracy's death to Milioti as being lifelike and in keeping with a history of loss, disappointment, and lowered expectations throughout the series, as seen in events like Marshall losing his father, Robin's discovering having biological children isn't an option for her.
It's one thing not to want something, it's another to be told you can't have it.
Lily's coming to terms with having to put her personal life priorities over her artistic dreams, and the characters all making sacrifices and having to give up on some of their dreams.
That's life. You know? You never end up where you thought you wanted to be. I'm not helping the environment. Ted's not a philosopher. Lily's not a world-famous artist.
Yet in this case, the tragedy of losing a spouse is suspiciously convenient to the fantasy of letting Ted date Robin. Tracy's primary character function ends up being to serve as a bridge between Ted and Robin, even a third wheel in their relationship. She's someone who can give Ted the children and domestic life he craves, which wouldn't be in Robin's character for multiple reasons, but then get out of the way and also give him the opportunity to pursue his real love interest later on. The practice of fridging a female character, having her hurt or killed to motivate a male character's story, usually happens in action, thrillers, or superhero stories, but Tracy is more or less the romantic sitcom version of this.
What mother is going to miss her daughter's wedding?
Her existence and her death are used solely to motivate Ted and to give him the having it all happy ending of being with Robin and still having kids. The fact that she expires tragically due to an unnamed illness is a deus ex machina, removing any potential sense of wrongdoing or messy guilt that might have resulted from Ted wanting to pursue Robin if Tracy were still alive. He's even spared the obstacle of his children's disapproval. In the finale, those kids get the most dialogue they've had over the entire series in order to aggressively push him to go after Robin.
I just call her up on the phone and ask her out on a date. Yes! And that's something you guys would want? Yes!
What's sad about this is that Tracy's whole love story, which culminated in Ted becoming her husband and father to her kids, and even her life, are somewhat devalued, treated as a short interlude in the real story. How I Met Your Mother sometimes makes us aware of how each of us craft narratives around ourselves, notably when Ted is so unsettled because in Stella's and Tony's love story, he's not the romantic hero, but the obstacle and villain.
This is a terrible movie, and it got everything wrong.
Like any two people who belong together, Tracy's and Ted's love narratives seemed to be in sync, mirrors leading to each other. Ted claimed as much through his story's very framing and the show's title, but it was a false sell that ultimately cheapened the meaning of the commitment he made to her and their family.
And exactly 45 days from now, you and I are gonna meet. And we're gonna fall in love. We're gonna have 2 kids.
How I Met Your Mother was nostalgic even in its time, and its creators evidently expected its viewers to want that gooey final reunion of its Ross and Rachel type on-again, off-again central couple. But this assumption didn't give viewers enough credit. The show's fans understood that people change, and the first person you set your sights on isn't necessarily the best person for you to be with forever. Viewers went along with where the story actually took them, and that was in a real sense, or at least it should have been, toward Tracy.
Right from the moment I met your mom, I knew I have to love this woman as much as I can, for as long as I can, and I can never stop loving her, not even for a second.
The series ends with images of the cast from the first episode, showing how young they were and giving us a concrete sense of the length and weight of the narrative. Tracy is included as the final member of the cast, but it's a choice that rings hollow, given how quickly she was cast aside. Tracy and the show deserved better.
Is Lily Aldrin the perfect wife and mother? How I Met Your Mother has 2 main women in its cast, and they have an opposite relationship to domesticity. Where Robin wants a career and hates attachment, Lily is the ideal domestic woman who loves her husband, kids, and cooking delicious meals.
I make this great frise and endive salad with a coriander lime vinaigrette.
Of all the characters on How I Met Your Mother, Lily appears to be the least individually driven. She doesn't have have a quest for romance like Ted, or a series of conquests like Barney, or a long-term professional focus like Marshall and Robin. In part, that's because Lily is, in many ways, supposed to be an ideal relationship woman.
Do you want to go have completely protected sex right now?
I do.
Do you want to finish your bacon first?
You are the perfect woman.
Based on How I Met Your Mother co-creator Craig Thomas's wife, Rebecca, Lily is in a mostly happy, stable, long-term relationship with Marshall, who she started dating in college and has been with for pretty much her entire adult life. And the couple's primary role in the series is to embody to Ted, who's so desperate to find love, what true long-term romance looks like in reality.
It's lunchtime and I love you.
I reciprocate in principle.
But is Lily actually happy outside of her marriage?
Are Marvin and I and any other future children we may have just some consolation prize?
Lily prioritizing her domestic life doesn't mean she doesn't have personal or professional dreams. Yet these are sidelined in the series, in what's a realistic reflection of the sacrifices many women who prioritize starting a family have had to make. Ultimately though, Lily is most focused on a different kind of control and power.
Lily is a diabolical puppet master, subtly manipulating every situation to get exactly what she wants. You got a good one there. Hang on to her.
Here's our take on what How I Met Your Mother says about domestically oriented women through Lily. Lily is set up in contrast to Robin, so the show basically gives us two diverging paths for women of its time. You could be career-oriented and commitment-averse.
I don't know where I'm gonna be in 5 years, and I don't want to know.
Or so committed to your relationship that your career might have to be an afterthought. Robin is a cool girl, or guy's personality in a hot female body, in the sense that she loves smoking cigars and shooting, while many of Lily's most salient character traits are caricatures of a different type of cool girl, the domestic goddess who excels at and loves making her husband happy. She does the bulk of the domestic work around the household, including seeming to love the kind of stereotypical cooking that a wife is supposed to do.
Lily's a damn good cook.
Beef pot pie, mac and cheese, homemade buttermilk biscuits.
Oh, no wonder Marshall dies at 68.
She's a fiercely committed mother to the point where she can't let even a qualified nanny take care of her child.
I can't give Marvin to a stranger!
And friendship is also just as important as family to Lily. Even when she and Marshall are new parents, she realizes that maintaining a healthy family also entails being involved in her friends' lives.
We asked Mickey to watch Marvin so we could come down and talk. We want to know everything that's going on with you guys.
Really?
You're our best friends.
Though Ted and Marshall have a more traditional friendship, Lily takes great pains to maintain her separate relationship with Ted, even when they get into a fight over the way her brief breakup with Marshall affected Ted. And Lily is insistent on how important her friendship with Robin is, even fiercely protective of her girlfriend.
If I see your face around Robin again, you will be crying about a lot more than your precious New York Rogers.
Rain?
I will cut you!
There's sometimes a tension that results from their different choices.
I want to talk about babies. It's like, it's all you ever talk about, Lily, and I'm sick of it.
But in other moments, they complement each other well, and they overcome their differences because they're still much more similar in the way they like to hang out, joke, and have fun. It's a reminder that even women who haven't made the same life choices can be friend soulmates. And so much of friendship is about committing to it and resolving to keep it alive. While Robin was largely raised as a boy, Lily's nurturing domestic qualities often go hand in hand with traditional femininity. And Lily relishes talking about things like babies, and her vice of excessive retail therapy is a stereotypically feminine one.
I buy designer clothes and accessories that I can't afford.
Still, Lily is in many respects more traditionally masculine than Marshall. She loves lots of stereotypically gross male activities, giving Marshall permission to indulge in things he might otherwise have to hide or control around another woman.
I have a rule. Never marry anyone you've had a farting contest with.
Oh, great. So now you're saying Lily and I shouldn't even get married?
She's extremely protective of her husband, to the point of being literally willing to fight for him when another woman tries to make a pass at him.
Kiss my husband? My husband? Nobody kisses my future baby daddy but me!
Marshall, by contrast, is gentle to a fault, something the series tells us in the very first episode.
Hit me? Please! This guy can barely even spank me in bed for fun. He's all like,
Oh, honey, did that hurt?
Lily is very much the dominant one in their relationship, so perhaps all of these qualities mixed together in the show's domestic woman character might make us rethink what traditionally feminine really is. And though Lily and Marshall are strictly monogamous and generally very happy in their relationship, we often get the sense that Lily has a freer and more open view of love and sexuality than we might first expect.
I want to travel and live overseas as an artist. Maybe have a lesbian relationship.
Marshall and Lily's sex life is a more public and explicit part of the show than that of most characters, because they're acting within the traditional bounds of a long-term heterosexual relationship with the intention of starting a nuclear family. But even within that relationship, Lily is more adventurous. Lily and Marshall have sex in their kitchen in the pilot. They often talk about how much sex they have.
Crazy monkey sex?
Crazy monkey sex.
And Lily in particular prioritizes sex even when they're on the verge of having a serious fight.
I know how important Italy was to you.
Shut up and do me.
While she would never act on it outside of her marriage, Lily is sometimes implied to be bisexual.
She's a goddess. Her skin glows, her legs go for miles, and that ass? I would wear that thing for a hat.
The possibility that Lily is interested in this kind of non-traditional behavior, but wouldn't actually do it due to her commitment to Marshall, defines her ideal qualities in the show's context. But being so deeply embedded in the home costs Lily. A huge underlying theme in How I Met Your Mother is compromise. The characters repeatedly come to the conclusion that being an adult means giving up on their youthful ideals.
So what about becoming an environmental lawyer? What about saving the world?
That was a great dream, but we have a mortgage and we're trying to have kids. We're grown-ups now, Lily.
In a certain way, Lily is the most resistant to this moral compromise, or the most in denial about it. This is why she shops like someone with a huge income, but can't bring herself to tell Marshall about her secret debt.
I have 15 credit cards and they're all maxed out.
It's also why, after Marshall starts working for Goliath National Bank, she still deludes herself that it's just a temporary choice.
So you'll probably quit G&B in a couple of years, right?
Affirmatively.
And become an environmental lawyer?
Yepster doodles.
She's rattled when Marshall tells her he's making the conscious choice to give up his idealistic goals in order to support the life they want for their family, though she comes to accept it.
Yeah, I know that you would have been okay if we were poor and I was trying to save the world. But will you still be okay if I make a lot of money and I spend all of it spoiling you and our kids?
But arguably, like many women who become mothers, Lily is the one who has to compromise most on the individual level. She makes the least money of anyone in the group and gives up the most professionally. This is arguably the show being fairly realistic about the trade-offs that faced women in the time, and still do now. On the other end of the spectrum, Robin, after making some professional compromises for her personal life in the series and not necessarily finding that satisfying, comes to the final conclusion that if she wants to truly obtain her dream of being an internationally renowned journalist, she has to be willing to forego a traditional marriage and family.
I know I'm always traveling. We both hate it when I'm gone, we both hate it when I drag you with me. Neither of us is happy. Is this just not working anymore?
Most of the How I Met Your Mother gang have ambitious professional dreams. Lily, too, in theory, says she wants to be an artist, but doesn't really follow through in taking concrete steps toward it.
I swore that teaching would be a way to support my painting career, but I never paint anymore.
And the gang kind of views this as a pipe dream or a hobby.
That kind of money only goes for real paintings. We need money right now, and I'm not sure that selling your paintings is how we're gonna get it.
And Lily's clearest goals aren't career-oriented, but domestic. To have a family with Marshall and enjoy the time she spends with her community. Even her professional life as a kindergarten teacher is shaped by Lily's nurturing instinct. It's part of why she's a good teacher and why she enjoys teaching. But over the course of the series, while How I Met Your Mother explores the dreams and struggles of Ted, Robin, and Marshall, Lily's hopes remain on the back burner.
There's a lot of things I've always wanted, and I haven't done any of them.
And there are signs that pop up of a frustration plaguing her. Where the other characters, especially Barney, have a seemingly endless supply of money and the ability to do whatever they want, Lily's less lucrative work goes hand in hand with her history of money problems and extravagant spending habit. And the compulsive shopping points to an unaddressed lack of fulfillment she's not facing. When the couple turn to selling Lily's clothes to combat their financial issues with their money-hole apartment, she takes it as a personal attack, even though her spending habit is the cause of their credit problems.
Guy forces his wife to dress in a garbage bag for the next 3 years. Tom.
And once they discover that the floor of Marshall and Lily's new apartment is crooked, she ties the question of whether they can fix the floor to the fate of her designer clothes, and therefore directly to her professional and creative dreams.
This is great. My dream of becoming an artist is dead, and now I'm watching my wardrobe disappear piece by piece.
We're told that Marshall is the reacher and Lily is the settler in this union.
The settler, Lily, is the best thing that the reacher, Marshall, is ever gonna get.
And when they briefly break up in the second season, it's because Lily is wondering if she needs time to pursue independent goals and find herself on her own without Marshall. During this period, she tries to seek her own passion, a dream comparable to Robin, Marshall, and Ted's professional goals.
All I've ever done is teach kindergarten. I want to get out there and change the world. I want to find my passion.
But Lily's attempt to become an artist goes nowhere. She ends up having a stint as a waitress, then works at Ted's architecture firm as an office assistant, where she uses her previous skill set to impose on Ted's boss.
When I was teaching kindergarten, whenever a kid was mean, I would take away one of his toys. The kid would be upset at first, but then he'd learn to stop being mean.
Lily stole my boss's baseball sign 3 times by Pete Rose.
And she decides that kindergarten teaching, and in particular enforcing appropriate rules of behavior, is her passion.
I think I figured out what I want to be when I grow up. Hasty. That's not how we treat people.
Still, Marshall and Lily's time apart hangs over both of them. It's the only time in Lily's life when she's made decisions related to her own needs and desires rather than those of her family. And while she comes back to New York saying she couldn't be without Marshall, it's also largely because her professional ambitions were stymied, leaving an open question about what her life might have looked like if this weren't the case.
What if you had found success in San Francisco? How do I know that you even would have come back to me?
Even if she's not as financially successful as the others, arguably being a kindergarten teacher gives a lot more back to the world than the others' professions. Yet while it seems like Lily has chosen to be a teacher and rarely brings it up afterward, the series drops hints over time that Lily is unhappy at her job.
I didn't work this hard to be stuck in some crappy dead-end teaching job. No offense, Lily.
I got peed on 3 times today. No arguments here.
Or at least that its daily difficulties wear her down.
In my kindergarten class, I have had plenty of troublesome students. Like Johnny Marley. He and that little stuffed horsey raised all kinds of hell.
When she and Marshall are trying for kids, she has to rule out many names due to what seems like a lot of students who have scarred her.
Johnny?
Hey, where's the goldfish? Not Johnny. Or Gil.
Jeremy.
Jeremy, no!
And once Marvin is born, Lily has a more specific focus for her teaching skills. For a while, parenting then becomes her primary form of professional fulfillment. That finally changes when Lily is faced with an offer to do art consulting for the captain many years later. She admits that she's been putting her family and friends above her professional dreams for years, and simply never got around to pursuing what she wanted for herself.
He was right! I am just a kindergarten teacher! And yes, I have a degree in art history and I was meant to do something with it, but I didn't.
Eventually, she and Marshall have a serious fight when he gets offered a judgeship in New York and accepts, putting his own career above Lily's first chance of having a full-time job in the art world. Lily's career has always seemed secondary to the gang, and at first, not even Marshall seems to think it's worth it for her to pursue her dreams.
But I could be a judge. We can't give that up for what is clearly just a hobby.
Though Lily is willing to put her family first and stay in New York.
We're staying in New York.
What? No.
Yes. It just makes sense.
Marshall decides to delay his own dreams and spends a year in Italy with Lily, their children, and their parents, keeping the family together. All this seems to express that, in How I Met Your Mother's view, the fact is women can't have it all, at least not all at once. But there can be a give and take, where couples make sacrifices at different points to make sure both individuals are fulfilled. In the end, after she's through the brunt of her pregnancies, Lily does get a career revival when she's ready for it. Just as, after she's made it as a journalist, Robin does get a version of family. Meanwhile, even if Lily doesn't achieve many of her personal dreams until much later in the series, all along she does exert her own form of power over the rest of the gang.
Lily, you're a psychopath.
A little bit.
We may think of the domestic woman as passive and compliant, but Lily's domestic perfection involves her being assertive, if not aggressive. The reason she's able to create the kind of family and close-knit community she and Marshall want is because she's willing to control everyone around her. This is exemplified by her long-standing habit of meddling behind the scenes to end Ted's relationships.
I broke you and Karen up.
Including pushing Ted and Robin to talk about their long-term goals so they'll realize they don't want the same things and separate. As rude and even shocking as this behavior might be, Lily doesn't really regret it.
You have the luxury of not knowing what I know. That those breakups, while tragic, probably saved you from a crappy and very expensive first marriage.
Confronted with her behavior, Lily cites the front porch test, an imagined version of her future with aged versions of Marshall and Ted.
When I picture the future, I picture us all together. So whenever you've been dating somebody for a while, I do the front porch test. How is this person gonna fit in with our group over the years?
Lily's actions are often cruel, but she takes them in order to secure the family and future she wants for herself. When Barney and Robin start hooking up, Lily locks them in a room together, ostensibly to get them to talk about their feelings, but also because Lily is invested in the idea of being couple friends with them.
Lily, let us out of here.
I'd be glad to. Just as soon as you and Barney have the talk.
Though Barney is the How I Met Your Mother character most associated with the idea of rules, Lily often institutes her own rules, ones that she takes more seriously and goes out of her way to enforce on her friends in order to protect her ideal life. When Robin joins the gang, Lily tries to set boundaries around how she interacts with Ted and Barney.
I really want this girl to stay a part of our lives. So the only way you're allowed to hook up with her is if you marry her.
She also creates rules for how Ted should interact with his married friend Zoe, in the interest of avoiding potential drama resulting from Ted sleeping with a married woman.
Rule number 1. Don't go anywhere that has candles.
And of course, though it's less crucial to their longer-term emotional lives, Lily has long-standing responsibilities as the person who administers the rules of Marshall and Barney's slap bet.
Are you really gonna do that? That's so immature.
You can be slapped by Commissioner.
Oh, I love it! What are my powers?
Lily is someone who craves control, and even the intense secrecy she manages to maintain around her shopping addiction points to a hidden neuroticism that she masks with her usually laid-back vibe. So why does Lily act this way? Lily's perfection, her commitment to her marriage, her children, and her friends makes sense given what we learn about her own family background. Lily's interest in being more of a traditional woman is a reaction to her mother, whose politics went against Lily's interest in cooking and domesticity.
All I wanted was an easy bake oven. All I got was a stupid Lego set because my feminist mom didn't want me conforming to traditional gender roles.
And because her father, Mickey, was largely absent, Lily resolves to be the most present parent possible. Those abandonment issues show up consistently in her approach to parenting, which becomes absolutely central to Lily's identity later in the series, to the point where it occasionally makes it harder for her and Marshall to be present in other areas.
Is it harder than we thought to be away from Marvin? Yes, but are we gonna have fun or are we gonna wallow in the corner like idiots?
Night, night, in the same way that Marshall justifies his repeated professional compromises in order to provide for the people closest to him, Lily's intense, even manipulative behavior stems from her sincere belief that she needs to act this way to create an ideal life for her, Marshall, their children, and her extended chosen family. For all that Lily tries to be cool about lots of the chaos in her life, she ultimately wants to live out her childhood dreams and have a happy, whole family by whatever means necessary.
Of course I want a perfect wedding! I'm supposed to feel like a princess today.
But she's open-minded enough to see that sometimes achieving this dream entails letting go of a little control too. Lily even allows Mickey back in her life, despite how much he's let her down, largely because he proves willing to show up for her own child and be more involved in Marvin's life than he was in Lily's.
I promise you, I'm here now for Marvin. If you want.
You're hired.
Although How I Met Your Mother is theoretically about a group of individual people trying to make a life together in the big city, Lily remains committed to the ideal of the traditional family, and her friends eventually become part of that structure, whether they want to or not. Through her skill at cooking and creating a particularly domestic romantic atmosphere, Lily helps set up Ted and Robin's reunion at the end of the series.
Robin Scherbatsky, will you be my backup wife?
And while Barney remains a serial manipulator of women after his divorce from Robin, he eventually commits to being a parent and becomes Uncle Barney for Ted, Marshall, and Lily's children. How I Met Your Mother is the story of Ted meeting his future wife, and the story of how he decided to pursue Robin after his wife died. But it's also the story of how Lily Aldrin built the family she wanted to see around herself.
That's the take. Click here to watch a video we think you'll love, or here to check out a whole playlist of awesome content. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. And make sure to subscribe to our Patreon for exclusive new videos.